Various woods differ in their susceptibility to termite attack. The differences are attributed to such factors as moisture content, hardness, and resin and lignin content. In one study, the Dreewood termite Cryptoderms brevis strongly preferred poplar and maple woods to other woods that were generally rejected by the termite colony. These preferences may in part have represented conditioned or learned behavior. 128. Some species of termite practice fungiculture. They maintain a garden of specialized fungi of genus Termitomyces, which are nourished by the excrement of the insects. When the fungi are eaten, their spores pass undamaged through the intestines of the termites to complete the cycle by germinating in the fresh fecal pellets. 129. 130. Molecular evidence suggests that the family Macrodormidae developed agriculture about 31 million years ago. It is assumed that more than 90% of dry wood in the semi-arid savanna ecosystems of Africa and Asia are reprocessed by these termites. Originally living in the rainforest, fungus farming allowed them to colonize the African savanna and other new environments, eventually expanding into Asia. 131. Depending on their feeding habits, termites are placed into two groups, the lower termites and higher termites. The lower termites predominantly feed on wood. As wood is difficult to digest, termites prefer to consume fungus-infected wood because it is easier to digest and the fungi are high in protein. Meanwhile, the higher termites consume a wide variety of materials, including feces, humus, grass, leaves and roots. 132. The gut of the lower termites contains many species of bacteria along with protozoa and holomastidiotoids, while the higher termites only have a few species of bacteria with no protozoa. 133. Predators. Crab spider with a captured alate. Termites are consumed by a wide variety of predators. One termite species alone, Hododerms mossambicus, was reported 1990 in the stomach contents of 65 birds and 19 mammals. 134. Arthropods such as ants. 135. 136. Centipedes, cockroaches, crickets, dragonflies, scorpions and spiders. 137. Reptiles such as lizards. 138. And amphibians such as frogs. 139. And toads consume termites, with two spiders in the family Amoxinidae being specialist termite predators. 140. 141. 142. Other predators include aardvarks, aardwolves, anteaters, bats, bears, bilbies, many birds, echidnas, foxes, galagos, numbots, mice and pangolins. 140, 143, 144, 145. The aardwolf is an insectivorous mammal that primarily feeds on termites. It locates its food by sound and also by detecting the scent secreted by the soldiers. A single aardwolf is capable of consuming thousands of termites in a single night by using its long, sticky tongue. 146, 147. Sloth bears break open mounds to consume the nestmates, while chimpanzees have developed tools to fish termites from their nest. Wear pattern analysis of bone tools used by the early hominin Paranthropus robustus suggests that they use these tools to dig into termite mounds. 148. A Matabele ant Megaponera annelise kills a Macroderms bellicosus termite soldier during a raid. Among all predators, ants are the greatest enemy to termites. 135, 136. Some ant genera are specialist predators of termites. For example, Megaponera is a strictly termite-eating Termitophagus genus that perform raiding activities, some lasting several hours. 149, 150. Pultathyrius tarsatus is another termite raiding species, with each individual stacking as many termites as possible in its mandibles before returning home, all the while recruiting additional nestmates to the raiding site through chemical trails. 135. The Malaysian Basoterodine ants Urhopolothrax heliscata uses a different strategy of termite hunting by pressing themselves into tight spaces, as they hunt through rotting wood housing termite colonies. Once inside, the ants seize their prey by using their short but sharp mandibles. 135. Tetramorium ulens is a specialized predator species that feeds on small termites. A scout recruits 10 to 30 workers to an area where termites are present, killing them by immobilizing them with their stinger. 151. Centromyrmex and Iridimyrmex colonies sometimes nest in termite mounds, and so the termites are preyed on by these ants. No evidence for any kind of relationship other than a predatory one is known. 152. 153. Other ants, including Acanthosticus, Camponotus, Crematogaster, Cylindromyrmex, Leptogenes, Odontomachus, Ophthalmopone, Pachycondyle, Rhytidoponera, Solenopsis and Wasmannia, also prey on termites. 143, 135, 154. Specialized subterranean species of army ants such as ones in the genus Doralus are known to commonly predate on young Macroderms colonies. 155. Ants are not the only invertebrates that perform raids. Many sphecoid wasps and several species including Polybia and Angiopolibia are known to raid termite mounds during the termites' nuptial flight. 156. Parasites, pathogens and viruses. Termites are less likely to be attacked by parasites than bees, wasps and ants, as they are usually well protected in their mounds. 157, 158. Nevertheless, termites are infected by a variety of parasites. Some of these include dipteran flies, 159, Pyemotes mites, and a large number of nematode parasites. Most nematode parasites are in the order Rhabditida. 160. Others are in the genus Myrmis, Diplogaster aerobora and Hartaria gallinarum. 161. Under imminent threat of an attack by parasites, a colony may migrate to a new location. 162. Certain fungal pathogens such as Aspergillus nomeus and Metarrhizum anisoplea are, however, major threats to a termite colony as they are not host-specific and may infect large portions of the colony. 163. 164. Transmission usually occurs via direct physical contact. 165. M. anisoplea is known to weaken the termite immune system. Infection with Anomias only occurs when a colony is under great stress. Over 34 fungal species are known to live as parasites on the exoskeleton of termites, with many being host-specific and only causing indirect harm to their host. 166. Termites are infected by viruses including Entomopox virinae and the nuclear polyhedrosis virus. 167. 168. Locomotion and foraging. Because the worker and soldier casts lack wings and thus never fly, and the reproductives use their wings for just a brief amount of time, termites predominantly rely upon their legs to move about. 66. Foraging behavior depends on the type of termite. For example, certain species feed on the wood structures they inhabit, and others harvest food that is near the nest. 169. Most workers are rarely found out in the open, and do not forage unprotected. They rely on sheeting and runways to protect them from predators. 78. Subterranean termites construct tunnels and galleries to look for food, and workers who manage to find food sources recruit additional nestmates by depositing a phagostimulant pheromone that attracts workers. 170. Foraging workers use semiochemicals to communicate with each other. 171. And workers who begin to forage outside of their nest release trail pheromones from their sternal glands. 172. In one species, Nasutiderms costalis, there are 3 phases in a foraging expedition. First, soldiers scout an area. When they find a food source, they communicate to other soldiers and a small force of workers starts to emerge. In the second phase, workers appear in large numbers at the site. The third phase is marked by a decrease in the number of soldiers present and an increase in the number of workers. 173. Isolated termite workers may engage in levee flight behavior as an optimized strategy for finding their nestmates or foraging for food. 174. Competition. Competition between two colonies always results in agonistic behavior towards each other, resulting in fights. These fights can cause mortality on both sides and, in some cases, the gain or loss of territory. 175. 176. Cemetery pits may be present, where the bodies of dead termites are buried. 177. Studies show that when termites encounter each other in foraging areas, some of the termites deliberately block passages to prevent other termites from entering. 171. 178. Dead termites from other colonies found in exploratory tunnels leads to the isolation of the area and thus the need to construct new tunnels. 179. Conflict between two competitors does not always occur. For example, though they might block each other's passages, colonies of Macroderms bellicosus and Macroderms subhyalinus are not always aggressive towards each other. 180. Suicide cramming is known in Coptoderms formosanus. Since C. formosanus colonies may get into physical conflict, some termites squeeze tightly into foraging tunnels and die, successfully blocking the tunnel and ending all agonistic activities. 181. Among the reproductive caste, neotenic queens may compete with each other to become the dominant queen when there are no primary reproductives. This struggle among the queens leads to the elimination of all but a single queen, which, with the king, takes over the colony. 182. Ants and termites may compete with each other for nesting space. In particular, ants that prey on termites usually have a negative impact on arboreal nesting species. 183. Communication. Hordes of nosutiderms on a march for food, following and leaving trail pheromones. Most termites are blind, so communication primarily occurs through chemical, mechanical and pheromonal cues. 63. 171. These methods of communication are used in a variety of activities, including foraging, locating reproductives, construction of nests, recognition of nestmates, nuptial flight, locating and fighting enemies, and defending the nests. 63. 171. The most common way of communicating is through antenation. 171. A number of pheromones are known, including contact pheromones, which are transmitted when workers are engaged in truffle-axis or grooming, and alarm, trail and sex pheromones. The alarm pheromone and other defensive chemicals are secreted from the frontal gland. Trail pheromones are secreted from the sternal gland, and sex pheromones derive from two glandular sources, the sternal and tergal glands. 63. When termites go out to look for food, they forage in columns along the ground through vegetation. A trail can be identified by the fecal deposits or runways that are covered by objects. Workers leave pheromones on these trails, which are detected by other nestmates through olfactory receptors. 82. Termites can also communicate through mechanical cues, vibrations, and physical contact. 82. 171. These signals are frequently used for alarm communication or for evaluating a food source. 171. 184. When termites construct their nests, they use predominantly indirect communication. No single termite would be in charge of any particular construction project. Individual termites react rather than think, but at a group level, they exhibit a sort of collective cognition. Specific structures or other objects such as pellets of soil or pillars cause termites to start building. The termite adds these objects onto existing structures, and such behavior encourages building behavior in other workers. The result is a self-organized process whereby the information that directs termite activity results from changes in the environment rather than from direct contact among individuals. 171. Termites can distinguish nestmates and non-nestmates through chemical communication and gut symbionts. Chemicals consisting of hydrocarbons released from the cuticle allow the recognition of alien termite species. 185. 186. Each colony has its own distinct odor. This odor is a result of genetic and environmental factors such as the termites, diet and the composition of the bacteria within the termites' intestines. 187. Defense. Termites rush to a damaged area of the nest. Termites rely on alarm communication to defend a colony. 171. Alarm pheromones can be released when the nest has been breached or is being attacked by enemies or potential pathogens. Termites always avoid nestmates infected with Metarrhizum anisopli spores, through vibrational signals released by infected nestmates. 188. Other methods of defense include headbanging and secretion of fluids from the frontal gland and defecating feces containing alarm pheromones. 171. 189. In some species, some soldiers block tunnels to prevent their enemies from entering the nest, and they may deliberately rupture themselves as an act of defense. 190. In cases where the intrusion is coming from a breach that is larger than the soldier's head, soldiers form a phalanx-like formation around the breach and bite at intruders. 191. If an invasion carried out by Megafauna anolis is successful, an entire colony may be destroyed, although this scenario is rare. 191. To termites, any breach of their tunnels or nests is a cause for alarm. When termites detect a potential breach, the soldiers usually bang their heads, apparently to attract other soldiers for defense and to recruit additional workers to repair any breach. 82. Additionally, an alarmed termite bumps into other termites which causes them to be alarmed and to leave pheromone trails to the disturbed area, which is also a way to recruit extra workers. 82. Nosute termite soldiers on rotten wood. The pantropical subfamily Nosutidermidae has a specialized caste of soldiers, known as nosutes, that have the ability to exude noxious liquids through a horn-like frontal projection that they use for defense. 192. Nosutes have lost their mandibles through the course of evolution and must be fed by workers. 86. A wide variety of monoterpene hydrocarbon solvents have been identified in the liquids that nosutes secrete. 193. Similarly, Formosan subterranean termites have been known to secrete naphthalene to protect their nests. 194. Soldiers of the species Globiderm sulphurus commit suicide by autophasis, rupturing a large gland just beneath the surface of their cuticles. The thick, yellow fluid in the gland becomes very sticky on contact with the air, entangling ants or other insects that are trying to invade the nest. 195. 196. Another termite, Neocopriderm taracua, also engages in suicidal defense. Workers physically unable to use their mandibles while in a fight form a pouch full of chemicals, then deliberately rupture themselves, releasing toxic chemicals that paralyze and kill their enemies. 197. The soldiers of the neotropical termite family Ceretermidae have a defense strategy which involves front gland autophasis, with the body rupturing between the head and abdomen. When soldiers guarding nest entrances are attacked by intruders, they engage in autophasis, creating a block that denies entry to any attacker. 198. Workers use several different strategies to deal with their dead, including burying, cannibalism, and avoiding a corpse altogether. 199. 200. 201. To avoid pathogens, termites occasionally engage in necrophoresis, in which a nestmate carries away a corpse from the colony to dispose of it elsewhere. 202. Which strategy is used depends on the nature of the corpse a worker is dealing with, i.e. the age of the carcass. 202. Relationship with other organisms. Rhizanthella gardneri is the only orchid known to be pollinated by termites. A species of fungus is known to mimic termite eggs, successfully avoiding its natural predators. These small brown balls, known as termite balls, rarely kill the eggs, and in some cases the workers tend to them. 203. This fungus mimics these eggs by producing cellulose-digesting enzymes known as glucosidases. 204. A unique mimicking behavior exists between various species of Trichopsonius beetles and certain termite species within reticuliderms. The beetles share the same cuticle hydrocarbons as the termites and even biosynthesize them. This chemical mimicry allows the beetles to integrate themselves within the termite colonies. 205. The developed appendages on the physogastric abdomen of Ostrosporoc the mimets allows the beetle to mimic a termite worker. 206. Some species of ant are known to capture termites to use as a fresh food source later on, rather than killing them. For example, Formica nigra captures termites, and those that try to escape are immediately seized and driven underground. 207. Certain species of ants in the subfamily Conurinae conduct these raids, although other ant species go in alone to steal the eggs or nymphs. 183. Ants such as Megaponera annelise attack the outside of mounds and Doralinae ants attack underground. 183. 208. Despite this, some termites and ants can coexist peacefully. Some species of termite, including Nasutyderms corniger, form associations with certain ant species to keep away predatory ant species. 209. The earliest known association between Azteca ants and Nasutyderms termites date back to the Oligocene to Miocene period. 210. An ant raiding party collecting Pseudocanthoderms militaris termites after a successful raid. 54 species of ants are known to inhabit Nasutyderms mounds, both occupied and abandoned ones. 211. One reason many ants live in Nasutyderms mounds is due to the termites' frequent occurrence in their geographical range. Another is to protect themselves from floods. 211. 212. Iridomyrmex also inhabits termite mounds, although no evidence for any kind of relationship other than a predatory one is known. 152. In rare cases, certain species of termites live inside active ant colonies. 213. Some invertebrate organisms such as beetles, caterpillars, flies and millipedes are termitophiles and dwell inside termite colonies. They are unable to survive independently. 82. As a result, certain beetles and flies have evolved with their hosts. They have developed a gland that secretes a substance that attracts the workers by licking them. Mounds may also provide shelter and warmth to birds, lizards, snakes and scorpions. 82. Termites are known to carry pollen and regularly visit flowers. 214. So are regarded as potential pollinators for a number of flowering plants. 215. One flower in particular, Rhizanthella gardneri, is regularly pollinated by foraging workers, and it is perhaps the only orchidaceae flower in the world to be pollinated by termites. 214. Many plants have developed effective defenses against termites. However, seedlings are vulnerable to termite attacks and need additional protection, as their defense mechanisms only develop when they have passed the seedling stage. 216. Defense is typically achieved by secreting antipedant chemicals into the woody cell walls. 217. This reduces the ability of termites to efficiently digest the cellulose. A commercial product, Blockade, has been developed in Australia that uses a range of plant extracts to create a paint on non-toxic termite barrier for buildings. 217. An extract of a species of Australian figwort, Aremophila, has been shown to repel termites. 218. Tests have shown that termites are strongly repelled by the toxic material to the extent that they will starve rather than consume the food. When kept close to the extract, they become disoriented and eventually die. 218. Relationship with the environment. Termite populations can be substantially impacted by environmental changes, including those caused by human intervention. A Brazilian study investigated the termite assemblages of 3 sites of Caatinga under different levels of anthropogenic disturbance in the semi-arid region of northeastern Brazil were sampled using 65 by 2 meters transects. 219. A total of 26 species of termites were present in the 3 sites, and 196 encounters were recorded in the transects. The termite assemblages were considerably different among sites, with a conspicuous reduction in both diversity and abundance with increased disturbance, related to the reduction of tree density and soil cover, and with the intensity of trampling by cattle and goats. The wood feeders were the most severely affected feeding group. Nests. Termite workers at work. An arboreal termite nest in Mexico. Termite nest in a Banksia, Palm Beach, Sydney. A termite nest can be considered as being composed of 2 parts, the inanimate and the animate. The animate is all of the termites living inside the colony, and the inanimate part is the structure itself, which is constructed by the termites. 220. Nests can be broadly separated into 3 main categories: hypogeel, i.e. subterranean, completely below ground; epigeel, protruding above the soil surface; and arboreal, built above ground, but always connected to the ground via shelter tubes. 221. Epigeel nests mounds protrude from the earth with ground contact and are made out of earth and mud. 222. A nest has many functions such as providing a protected living space and providing shelter against predators. Most termites construct underground colonies rather than multifunctional nests and mounds. 223. Primitive termites of today nest in wooden structures such as logs, stumps and the dead parts of trees, as did termites millions of years ago. 221. To build their nests, termites use a variety of resources such as feces, which have many desirable properties as a construction material. 224. Other building materials include partly digested plant material, used in carden nests, arboreal nests built from fecal elements and wood, and soil, used in subterranean nest and mound construction. Not all nests are visible, as many nests in tropical forests are located underground. 223. Species in the subfamily Apicodermidinae are good examples of subterranean nest builders, as they only dwell inside tunnels. 224. Other termites live in wood, and tunnels are constructed as they feed on the wood. Nests and mounds protect the termites' soft bodies against desiccation, light, pathogens and parasites, as well as providing a fortification against predators. 225. Nests made out of carden are particularly weak, and so the inhabitants use counterattack strategies against invading predators. 226. Arboreal carden nests of mangrove swamp-dwelling Nasutyderms are enriched in lignin and depleted in cellulose and xylins. This change is caused by bacterial decay in the gut of the termites. They use their feces as a carden building material. Arboreal termites nests can account for as much as 2% of above-ground carbon storage in Puerto Rican mangrove swamps. These Nasutyderms nests are mainly composed of partially biodegraded wood material from the stems and branches of mangrove trees, namely, Rhizophora mangle, red mangrove, Avicennia germinans, black mangrove, and Laguncularia racemosa, white mangrove. 227. Some species build complex nests called polycalic nests. This habitat is called polycalism. Polycalic species of termites form multiple nests, or calles, connected by subterranean chambers. 143. The termite genera Apicoderms and Trinorbiderms are known to have polycalic species. 228. Polycalic nests appear to be less frequent in mound-building species, although polycalic arboreal nests have been observed in a few species of Nasutyderms. 228. Mounds. Nests are considered mounds if they protrude from the Earth's surface. 224. A mound provides termites the same protection as a nest but is stronger. 226. Mounds located in areas with torrential and continuous rainfall are at risk of mound erosion due to their clay-rich construction. Those made from carden can provide protection from the rain, and in fact can withstand high precipitation. 224. Certain areas in mounds are used as strong points in case of a breach. For example, Kuboterms colonies build narrow tunnels used as strong points, as the diameter of the tunnels is small enough for soldiers to block. 229. A highly protected chamber, known as the queen's cell, houses the queen and king and is used as a last line of defense. 226. Species in the genus Macroderms arguably build the most complex structures in the insect world, constructing enormous mounds. 224. These mounds are among the largest in the world, reaching a height of 8 to 9 meters, 26 to 29 feet, and consist of chimneys, pinnacles, and ridges. 82. Another termite species, Amiterns meridionalis, can build nests 3 to 4 meters, 9 to 13 feet high and 2.5 meters, 8 feet wide. The tallest mound ever recorded was 12.8 meters, 42 feet long, found in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. 230. The sculptured mounds sometimes have elaborate and distinctive forms, such as those of the compass termite, Amiterns meridionalis and Alorensis, which builds tall, wedge-shaped mounds with the long axis oriented approximately north-south, which gives them their common name. 231. 232. This orientation has been experimentally shown to assist thermoregulation. The north-south orientation causes the internal temperature of a mound to increase rapidly during the morning while avoiding overheating from the midday sun. The temperature then remains at a plateau for the rest of the day until the evening. 233. Shelter tubes. Nasutiterminae shelter tubes on a tree trunk provide cover for the trail from nest to forest floor. Termites construct shelter tubes, also known as earthen tubes or mud tubes, that start from the ground. These shelter tubes can be found on walls and other structures. 234. Constructed by termites during the night, a time of higher humidity, these tubes provide protection to termites from potential predators, especially ants. 235. Shelter tubes also provide high humidity and darkness and allow workers to collect food sources that cannot be accessed in any other way. 234. These passageways are made from soil and feces and are normally brown in color. The size of these shelter tubes depends on the number of food sources that are available. They range from less than 1 centimeter to several cm in width, but maybe dozens of meters in length. 235. Relationship with humans. As pests. Termite mound is an obstacle on a runway at Coryxus, Namibia. Termite damage on external structure. Owing to their wood-eating habits, many termite species can do significant damage to unprotected buildings and other wooden structures. 236. Termites play an important role as decomposers of wood and vegetative material, and the conflict with humans occurs where structures and landscapes containing structural wood components, cellulose-derived structural materials and ornamental vegetation provide termites with a reliable source of food and moisture. 237. Their habit of remaining concealed often results in their presence being undetected until the timbers are severely damaged, with only a thin exterior layer of wood remaining, which protects them from the environment. 238. Of the 3,106 species known, only 183 species cause damage. 83 species cause significant damage to wooden structures. 236. In North America, 18 subterranean species are pests. 239. In Australia, 16 species have an economic impact. In the Indian subcontinent, 26 species are considered pests, and in tropical Africa, 24. In Central America and the West Indies, there are 17 pest species. 236. Among the termite genera, Coptoderms has the highest number of pest species of any genus, with 28 species known to cause damage. 236. Less than 10% of treewood termites are pests, but they infect wooden structures and furniture in tropical, subtropical and other regions. Dampwood termites only attack lumber material exposed to rainfall or soil. 236. Treewood termites thrive in warm climates, and human activities can enable them to invade homes since they can be transported through contaminated goods, containers and ships. 236. Colonies of termites have been seen thriving in warm buildings located in cold regions. 240. Some termites are considered invasive species. Cryptoderms brevis, the most widely introduced invasive termite species in the world, has been introduced to all the islands in the West Indies and to Australia. 59. 236. Termite damage in wooden house stumps. In addition to causing damage to buildings, termites can also damage food crops. 241. Termites may attack trees whose resistance to damage is low but generally ignore fast-growing plants. Most attacks occur at harvest time. Crops and trees are attacked during the dry season. 241. In Australia, at a cost of more than 1.5 billion Australian dollars per year, 242 termites cause more damage to houses than fire, floods and storms combined. 243. In Malaysia, it is estimated that termites caused about 400 million of damages to properties and buildings. 244. The damage caused by termites costs the southwestern United States approximately $1.5 billion each year in wood structure damage, but the true cost of damage worldwide cannot be determined. 236. 245. Treewood termites are responsible for a large proportion of the damage caused by termites. 246. The goal of termite control is to keep structures and susceptible ornamental plants free from termites. 247. Structures may be homes or business, or elements such as wooden fence posts and telephone poles. Regular and thorough inspections by a trained professional may be necessary to detect termite activity in the absence of more obvious signs like termite swarmers or alates inside or adjacent to a structure. Termite monitors made of wood or cellulose adjacent to a structure may also provide indication of termite foraging activity where it will be in conflict with humans. Termites can be controlled by application of Bordeaux mixture or other substances that contain copper such as chromated copper arsenate. 248. In the United States, application of a soil termiticide with the active ingredient fipronil, such as Termidor SC or Taurus SC, by a licensed professional, 249, is a common remedy approved by the Environmental Protection Agency for economically significant subterranean termites. 250. 251. A growing demand for alternative, green, and more natural extermination methods has increased demand for mechanical and biological control methods such as orange oil. To better control the population of termites, various methods have been developed to track termite movements. 245. One early method involved distributing termite bait laced with immunoglobulin G, IgG marker proteins from rabbits or chickens. Termites collected from the field could be tested for the rabbit IgG markers using a rabbit IgG specific assay. More recently developed, less expensive alternatives include tracking the termites using egg white, cow milk, or soy milk proteins, which can be sprayed on termites in the field. Termites bearing these proteins can be traced using a protein-specific ELISA test. 245. RNAi insecticides specific to termites are in development. 252. One factor reducing investment in its research and development is concern about high potential for resistance evolution. 252. In 1994, termites, of the species Reticuliterns grassae, were identified in 2 bungalows in Saunton, Devon. Anecdotal evidence suggests the infestation could date back 70 years before the official identification. There are reports that gardeners had seen white ants and that a greenhouse had to be replaced in the past. The Saunton infestation was the first and only colony ever recorded in the UK. In 1998, termite eradication program was set up, with the intention of containing and eradicating the colony. The TEP was managed by the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, now the Department for Leveling Up, Housing and Communities. The TEP used insect growth regulators to prevent the termites from reaching maturity and reproducing. In 2021, the UK's termite eradication program announced the eradication of the colony, the first time a country has eradicated termites. 253. As food. Mozambican boys from the Yao tribe collecting flying termites. These flying elates were collected as they came out of their nests in the ground during the early days of the rainy season. 43 termite species are used as food by humans or are fed to livestock. 254. These insects are particularly important in impoverished countries where malnutrition is common, as the protein from termites can help improve the human diet. Termites are consumed in many regions globally, but this practice has only become popular in developed nations in recent years. 254. Termites are consumed by people in many different cultures around the world. In many parts of Africa, the elates are an important factor in the diets of native populations. 255. Groups have different ways of collecting or cultivating insects, sometimes collecting soldiers from several species. Though harder to acquire, queens are regarded as a delicacy. 256. Termite elates are high in nutrition with adequate levels of fat and protein. They are regarded as pleasant in taste, having a nut-like flavor after they are cooked. 255. Elates are collected when the rainy season begins. During a nuptial flight, they are typically seen around lights to which they are attracted, and so nets are set up on lamps and captured elates are later collected. The wings are removed through a technique that is similar to winnowing. The best result comes when they are lightly roasted on a hot plate or fried until crisp. Oil is not required as their bodies usually contain sufficient amounts of oil. Termites are typically eaten when livestock is lean and tribal crops have not yet developed or produced any food, or if food stocks from a previous growing season are limited. 255. In addition to Africa, termites are consumed in local or tribal areas in Asia and North and South America. In Australia, indigenous Australians are aware that termites are edible but do not consume them even in times of scarcity. There are few explanations as to why. 255. 256. Termite mounds are the main sources of soil consumption, geophagy, in many countries including Kenya, Tanzania, Zambia, Zimbabwe and South Africa. 257. 258. 259. 260. Researchers have suggested that termites are suitable candidates for human consumption and space agriculture, as they are high in protein and can be used to convert inedible waste to consumable products for humans. 261. In agriculture. Scientists have developed a more affordable method of tracing the movement of termites using traceable proteins. 245. Termites can be major agricultural pests, particularly in East Africa and North Asia, where crop losses can be severe, 3–100% in crop loss in Africa. 262. Counterbalancing this is a greatly improved water infiltration where termite tunnels in the soil allow rainwater to soak in deeply, which helps reduce runoff and consequent soil erosion through bioderivation. 263. In South America, cultivated plants such as eucalyptus, upland rice and sugarcane can be severely damaged by termite infestations, with attacks on leaves, roots and woody tissue. Termites can also attack other plants, including cassava, coffee, cotton, fruit trees, maize, peanuts, soybeans and vegetables. 30. Mounds can disrupt farming activities, making it difficult for farmers to operate farming machinery. However, despite farmers' dislike of the mounds, it is often the case that no net loss of production occurs. 30. Termites can be beneficial to agriculture, such as by boosting crop yields and enriching the soil. Termites and ants can recolonize untilled land that contains crop stubble, which colonies use for nourishment when they establish their nests. The presence of nests in fields enables larger amounts of rainwater to soak into the ground and increases the amount of nitrogen in the soil, both essential for the growth of crops. 264. In science and technology. The termite gut has inspired various research efforts aimed at replacing fossil fuels with cleaner, renewable energy sources. 265. Termites are efficient bioreactors, theoretically capable of producing 2 liters of hydrogen from a single sheet of paper. 266. Approximately 200 species of microbes live inside the termite hindgut, releasing the hydrogen that was trapped inside wood and plants that they digest. 265. 267. Through the action of unidentified enzymes in the termite gut, linocellulose polymers are broken down into sugars and are transformed into hydrogen. The bacteria within the gut turns the sugar and hydrogen into cellulose acetate, an acetate ester of cellulose on which termites rely for energy. 265. Community DNA sequencing of the microbes in the termite hindgut has been employed to provide a better understanding of the metabolic pathway. 265. Genetic engineering may enable hydrogen to be generated in bioreactors from woody biomass. 265. The development of autonomous robots capable of constructing intricate structures without human assistance has been inspired by the complex mounds that termites build. 268. These robots work independently and can move by themselves on a tracked grid, capable of climbing and lifting up bricks. Such robots may be useful for future projects on Mars, or for building levees to prevent flooding. 269. Termites use sophisticated means to control the temperatures of their mounds. As discussed above, the shape and orientation of the mounds of the Australian compass termite stabilizes their internal temperatures during the day. As the towers heat up, the solar chimney effect, stack effect creates an updraft of air within the mound. 270. Wind blowing across the tops of the towers enhances the circulation of air through the mounds, which also include side vents in their construction. The solar chimney effect has been in use for centuries in the Middle East and Near East for passive cooling, as well as in Europe by the Romans. 271. It is only relatively recently, however, that climate-responsive construction techniques have become incorporated into modern architecture. Especially in Africa, the stack effect has become a popular means to achieve natural ventilation and passive cooling in modern buildings. 270. In culture. The pink-hued Eastgate Center. The Eastgate Center is a shopping center and office block in central Harare, Zimbabwe, whose architect, Mick Pierce, used passive cooling inspired by that used by the local termites. 272. It was the first major building exploiting termite-inspired cooling techniques to attract international attention. Other such buildings include the Learning Resource Center at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa and the Council House 2 building in Melbourne, Australia. 270. Few zoos hold termites, due to the difficulty in keeping them captive and to the reluctance of authorities to permit potential pests. One of the few that do, the Zoo Basel in Switzerland, has 2 thriving Macroderms bellicosus populations, resulting in an event very rare in captivity, the mass migrations of young flying termites. This happened in September 2008, when thousands of male termites left their mound each night, died, and covered the floors and water pits of the house holding their exhibit. 273. African tribes in several countries have termites as totems, and for this reason tribe members are forbidden to eat the reproductive elates. 274. Termites are widely used in traditional popular medicine. They are used as treatments for diseases and other conditions such as asthma, bronchitis, hoarseness, influenza, sinusitis, tonsillitis and whooping cough. 254. In Nigeria, Macroderms nigeriensis is used for spiritual protection and to treat wounds in sick pregnant women. In Southeast Asia, termites are used in ritual practices. In Malaysia, Singapore and Thailand, termite mounds are commonly worshipped among the populace. 275. Abandoned mounds are viewed Ant. Ants are eusocial insects of the family Formicidae and, along with the related wasps and bees, belong to the order Hymenoptera. Ants evolved from vespoid wasp ancestors in the Cretaceous period. More than 13,800 of an estimated total of 22,000 species have been classified. They are easily identified by their geniculate, elbowed antennae and the distinctive node-like structure that forms their slender waists. Ants form colonies that range in size from a few dozen individuals often living in small natural cavities to highly organized colonies that may occupy large territories with sizable nests that consist of millions of individuals or into the hundreds of millions in supercolonies. Typical colonies consist of various castes of sterile, wingless females, most of which are workers or gates, as well as soldiers, diner gates, and other specialized groups. Nearly all ant colonies also have some fertile males called drones, and one or more fertile females called queens, gines. The colonies are described as superorganisms because the ants appear to operate as a unified entity, collectively working together to support the colony. Ants have colonized almost every landmass on Earth. The only places lacking indigenous ants are Antarctica and a few remote or inhospitable islands. Ants thrive in moist tropical ecosystems and may exceed the combined biomass of wild birds and mammals. Their success in so many environments has been attributed to their social organization and their ability to modify habitats, tap resources, and defend themselves. Their long coevolution with other species has led to mimetic, commensal, parasitic, and mutualistic relationships. Ant societies have division of labor, communication between individuals, and an ability to solve complex problems. These parallels with human societies have long been an inspiration and subject of study. Many human cultures make use of ants in cuisine, medication, and rites. Some species are valued in their role as biological pest control agents. Their ability to exploit resources may bring ants into conflict with humans, however, as they can damage crops and invade buildings. Some species, such as the red imported fire ant, Solenopsis invicta, of South America, are regarded as invasive species in other parts of the world, establishing themselves in areas where they have been introduced accidentally. Etymology. The word ant and the archaic word emmet are derived from anti, emmet of Middle English, which come from emmet of Old English. These are all related to Low Saxon mount, empen varieties Old Saxon emeta, and to German emis Old High German emesa. All of these words come from West Germanic *amachon, and the original meaning of the word was the biter, from Proto-Germanic I, off, away, plus mate, cut. 4, 5. The family name Formicidae is derived from the Latin formica, ant, 6, from which the words in other Romance languages, such as the Portuguese formiga, Italian formica, Spanish formiga, Romanian furnica, and French formi are derived. It has been hypothesized that a Proto-Indo-European word *morwi was the root for Sanskrit famra, Greek mermex, Old Church Slavonic merabagi, Old Irish marb, Old Norse mor, Dutch meyer, Swedish myra, Danish meyer, Middle Dutch mir, and Crimean Gothic mira. 7, 8. The family Formicidae belongs to the order Hymenoptera, which also includes sawflies, bees, and wasps. Ants evolved from a lineage within the stinging wasps, and a 2013 study suggests that they are a sister group of the Apoidea. 9. However, since Apoidea is a superfamily, ants must be upgraded to the same rank. 10. A more detailed basic taxonomy was proposed in 2020. 3 species of the extinct mid-Cretaceous genera Camelomecia and Camelospecia were placed outside of the Formicidae, in a separate clade within the general superfamily Formicoidea, which, together with Apoidea, forms the high-ranking group Formicopoidina. 2. Fernandez et al. 2021 suggests that the common ancestors of Antsandipoids within the Formicopoidina ants. Temporal range, Late Albian, present. Fire ants. Scientific classification domain, Eukaryota kingdom, Animalia phylum, Arthropoda class, Insecta order, Hymenoptera infraorder, Aculita. Superfamily, Formicoidea. Latreille, 1809-2. Family, Formicidae. Latreille, 1809. Taxonomy and evolution. Ants fossilized in Baltic amber. In 1966, E.O. Wilson and his colleagues identified the fossil remains of an ant, Spicamerma, that lived in the Cretaceous period. The specimen, trapped in amber dating back to around 92 million years ago, has features found in some wasps, but not found in modern ants. 15. The oldest fossils of ants date to the mid-Cretaceous, around 100 million years ago, which belong to extinct stem groups such as the Hydamermesinae, Spicamerminae and Zygrassamaceanae, with modern ant subfamilies appearing towards the end of the Cretaceous around 80 to 70 million years ago. 16. Ants diversified extensively during the Angiosperm terrestrial revolution, 17, and assumed ecological dominance around 60 million years ago. 18. 1, 19, 20. Some groups, such as the Leptonillinae and Marshallinae, are suggested to have diversified from early primitive ants that were likely to have been predators underneath surface of the soil. 13. 21. During the Cretaceous period, a few species of primitive ants ranged widely on the Laurasian supercontinent, the northern hemisphere. Their representation in the fossil record is poor, in comparison to the populations of other insects, representing only about 1% of fossil evidence of insects in the era. Ants became dominant after adaptive radiation at the beginning of the Paleogene period. By the Oligocene and Miocene, ants had come to represent 20–40% of all insects found in major fossil deposits. Of the species that lived in the Eocene epoch, around 1 in 10 genera survive to the present. Genera surviving today comprise 56% of the genera in Baltic amber fossils, early Oligocene, and 92% of the genera in Dominican amber fossils, apparently early Miocene. 18. 22. Termites live in colonies and are sometimes called white ants, but termites are only distantly related to ants. They are the suborder Isoptera, and together with cockroaches, they form the order Blatodia. Blatodines are related to mantids, crickets, and other winged insects that do not undergo complete metamorphosis. Like ants, termites are eusocial, with sterile workers, but they differ greatly in the genetics of reproduction. The similarity of their social structure to that of ants is attributed to convergent evolution. 23. Velvet ants look like large ants, but are wingless female. Wasps. 24, 25. Region. Number of species 26. Ants have a cosmopolitan distribution. They are found on all continents except Antarctica, and only a few large islands, such as Greenland, Iceland, parts of Polynesia and the Hawaiian Islands lack native ant species. Ants have a cosmopolitan distribution. They are found on all continents except Antarctica, and only a few large islands, such as Greenland, Iceland, parts of Polynesia and the Hawaiian Islands lack native ant species. 27, 28. Ants occupy a wide range of ecological niches and exploit many different food resources as direct or indirect herbivores, predators and scavengers. Most ant species are omnivorous generalists, but a few are specialist feeders. There is considerable variation in ant abundance across habitats, peaking in the moist tropics to nearly 6 times that found in less suitable habitats. 29. Their ecological dominance has been examined primarily using estimates of their biomass. Myrmecologists E.O. Wilson had estimated in 2009 that at any one time the total number of ants was between 1 and 10 quadrillion, short scale i.e., between 1015 and 1016, and using this estimate he had suggested that the total biomass of all the ants in the world was approximately equal to the total biomass of the entire human race. 30. More careful estimates made in 2022 which take into account regional variations puts the global ant contribution at 12 megatons of dry carbon, which is about 20% of the total human contribution, but greater than the top the wild birds and mammals combined. This study also puts a conservative estimate of the ants at about 20 times 1015, 20 quadrillion. 31, 32, 33. Ants range in size from 0.75 to 52 millimeters, 0.0302.0 and 34, 35, the largest species being the fossil Titanomyrma giganteum, the queen of which was 6 centimeters 21 halves in long with a wingspan of 15 centimeters, 6 in. 36. Ants vary in color. Most ants are yellow to red or brown to black, but a few species are green and some tropical species have a metallic luster. More than 13,800 species are currently known, 37, with upper estimates of the potential existence of about 22,000. See the article list of ant genera with the greatest diversity in the tropics. Taxonomic studies continue to resolve the classification and systematics of ants. Online databases of ant species, including antweb, tweb.org/closing parenthesis and the Hymenoptera name server, help to keep track of the known and newly described species. 37. The relative ease with which ants may be sampled and studied in ecosystems has made them useful as indicator species in biodiversity studies. 38, 39. Distribution and diversity. Morphology. Diagram of a worker ant, Neoponera verinae. Ants are distinct in their morphology from other insects in having geniculate, elbowed antennae, metapleural glands, and a strong constriction of their second abdominal segment into a node-like petiole. The head, mesosoma, and metasoma are the three distinct body segments, formerly tagmata. The petiole forms a narrow waist between their mesosoma, thorax plus the first abdominal segment, which is fused to it, and gaster abdomen less the abdominal segments in the petiole. The petiole may be formed by one or two nodes, the second alone, or the second and third abdominal segments. 40. Tergosternal fusion. When the tergite and sternite of a segment fuse together, can occur partly or fully on the second, third and fourth abdominal segment and is used in identification. Fourth abdominal tergosternal fusion was formerly used as character that defined the poneromorph subfamilies, Ponerinae and relatives within their clade, but this is no longer considered a synapomorphic character. 41. Like other arthropods, ants have an exoskeleton, an external covering that provides a protective casing around the body and a point of attachment for muscles, in contrast to the internal skeletons of humans and other vertebrates. Insects do not have lungs. Oxygen and other gases, such as carbon dioxide, pass through their exoskeleton via tiny valves called spiracles. Insects also lack closed blood vessels. Instead, they have a long, thin, perforated tube along the top of the body called the dorsal aorta that functions like a heart and pumps hemolymph toward the head, thus driving the circulation of the internal fluids. The nervous system consists of a ventral nerve cord that runs the length of the body, with several ganglia and branches along the way reaching into the extremities of the appendages. 42. Head. Bull ants showing the powerful mandibles and the relatively large compound eyes that provide excellent vision. An ant's head contains many sensory organs. Like most insects, ants have compound eyes made from numerous tiny lenses attached together. Ant eyes are good for acute movement detection, but do not offer a high-resolution image. They also have three small ocelli, simple eyes, on the top of the head that detect light levels and polarization. 43. Compared to vertebrates, ants tend to have blurrier eyesight, particularly in smaller species. 44. And a few subterranean taxa are completely blind. 12. However, some ants, such as Australia's bulldog ant, have excellent vision and are capable of discriminating the distance and size of objects moving nearly a meter away. 45. Based on experiments conducted to test their ability to differentiate between selected wavelengths of light, some ant species such as Camponotus blandus, Solenopsis invicta, and Formica cunicularia are thought to possess a degree of color vision. 46. Two antennae feelers are attached to the head. These organs detect chemicals, air currents, and vibrations. They also are used to transmit and receive signals through touch. The head has two strong jaws, the mandibles, used to carry food, manipulate objects, construct nests, and for defense. 42. In some species, a small pocket infrabuccal chamber inside the mouth stores food, so it may be passed to other ants or their larvae. 47. Mesosoma. Both the legs and wings of the ant are attached to the mesosoma thorax. The legs terminate in a hooked claw which allows them to hook on and climb surfaces. 48. Only reproductive ants, queens and males, have wings. Queens shed their wings after the nuptial flight, leaving visible stubs, a distinguishing feature of queens. In a few species, wingless queens, ergotoids, and males occur. 42. Metasoma. The metasoma, the abdomen, of the ant houses important internal organs, including those of the reproductive, respiratory, tracheae, and excretory systems. Workers of many species have their egg-laying structures modified into stings that are used for subduing prey and defending their nests. 42. Polymorphism. 7 leafcutter ant workers of various castes, left, and 2 queens, right. In the colonies of a few ant species, there are physical castes, workers in distinct size classes, called minor microgates median, and major ergates macroergates. Often, the larger ants have disproportionately larger heads, and correspondingly stronger mandibles. Although formerly known as dinergates, such individuals are sometimes called soldier ants because their stronger mandibles make them more effective in fighting, although they still are workers and their duties typically do not vary greatly from the minor or median workers. 49. In a few species, the median workers are absent, creating a sharp divide between the minors and majors. 50. Weaver ants, for example, have a distinct bimodal size distribution. 51. 52. Some other species show continuous variation in the size of workers. The smallest and largest workers in Cairbarra diversa show nearly a 500-fold difference in their dry weights. 53. Workers cannot mate. However, because of the haplodiploid sex determination system in ants, workers of a number of species can lay unfertilized eggs that become fully fertile, haploid males. The role of workers may change with their agent in some species, such as honeypot ants. Young workers are fed until their gasters are distended and act as living food storage vessels. These food storage workers are called repletes. 54. For instance, these replete workers develop in the North American honeypot ant Myrmecocystis mexicanus. Usually the largest workers in the colony develop into repletes, and, if repletes are removed from the colony, other workers become repletes, demonstrating the flexibility of this particular polymorphism. 55. This polymorphism in morphology and behavior of workers initially was thought to be determined by environmental factors such as nutrition and hormones that led to different developmental paths. However, genetic differences between worker castes have been noted in Acromyrmex sp. 56. These polymorphisms are caused by relatively small genetic changes. Differences in a single gene of Solenopsis invicta can decide whether the colony will have single or multiple queens. 57. The Australian jack jumper ant Myrmecia pilosula has only a single pair of chromosomes, with the males having just one chromosome as they are haploid, the lowest number known for any animal, making it an interesting subject for studies in the genetics and developmental biology of social insects. 58-59. Genome size. Genome size is a fundamental characteristic of an organism. Ants have been found to have tiny genomes, with the evolution of genome size suggested to occur through loss and accumulation of non-coding regions, mainly transposable elements, and occasionally by whole genome duplication. 60. This may be related to colonization processes, but further studies are needed to verify this. 60. Life cycle. Meat-eater ant nest during swarming. The life of an ant starts from an egg. If the egg is fertilized, the progeny will be female diploid. If not, it will be male haploid. Ants develop by complete metamorphosis, with the larva stages passing through a pupal stage before emerging as an adult. The larva is largely immobile and is fed and cared for by workers. Food is given to the larva by trophallaxis, a process in which an ant regurgitates liquid food held in its crop. This is also how adults share food, stored in the social stomach. Larvae, especially in the later stages, may also be provided solid food, such as trophic eggs, pieces of prey, and seeds brought by workers. 61. The larvae grow through a series of 4 or 5 molts and enter the pupal stage. The pupa has the appendages free and not fused to the body as in a butterfly pupa. 62. The differentiation into queens and workers, which are both female and different castes of workers, is influenced in some species by the nutrition the larvae obtain. Genetic influences and the control of gene expression by the developmental environment are complex, and the determination of caste continues to be a subject of research. 63. Winged male ants, called drones, termed anner in old literature. 49. Emerge from pupae along with the usually winged breeding females. Some species, such as army ants, have wingless queens. Larvae and pupae need to be kept at fairly constant temperatures to ensure proper development, and so often are moved around among the various brood chambers within the colony. 64. A new agate spends the first few days of its adult life caring for the queen and young. She then graduates to digging and other nest work, and later to defending the nest and foraging. These changes are sometimes fairly sudden, and define what are called temporal castes. Such age-based task specialization or polytheism has been suggested as having evolved due to the high casualties involved in foraging and defense, making it an acceptable risk only for ants who are older and likely to die sooner from natural causes. 65-66. In the Brazilian ant Phorolius pusillus, the nest entrance is closed from the outside to protect the colony from predatory ant species at sunset each day. About 1 to 8 workers seal the nest entrance from the outside, and they have no chance of returning to the nest and are in effect sacrificed. 67. Whether these seemingly suicidal workers or older workers has not been determined. 68. Ant colonies can be long-lived. The queens can live for up to 30 years, and workers live from 1 to 3 years. Males, however, are more transitory, being quite short-lived and surviving for only a few weeks. 69. Ant queens are estimated to live 100 times as long as solitary insects of a similar size. 70. Ants are active all year long in the tropics. However, in cooler regions, they survive the winter in a state of dormancy known as hibernation. The forms of inactivity are varied, and some temperate species have larvae going into the inactive state, diapause, while in others, the adults alone pass the winter in a state of reduced activity. 71. Reproduction. Honey ant Prenolepis imparis mating. The drone is much smaller than the queen. A wide range of reproductive strategies have been noted in ant species. Females of many species are known to be capable of reproducing asexually through thelytokous parthenogenesis. 72. Secretions from the male accessory glands in some species can plug the female genital opening and prevent females from remating. 73. Most ant species have a system in which only the queen and breeding females have the ability to mate. Contrary to popular belief, some ant nests have multiple queens, while others may exist without queens. Workers with the ability to reproduce are called gamergates, and colonies that lack queens are then called gamergate colonies. Colonies with queens are said to be queen-right. 74. Drones can also mate with existing queens by entering a foreign colony, such as in army ants. When the drone is initially attacked by the workers, it releases a mating pheromone. If recognized as a mate, it will be carried to the queen to mate. 75. Males may also patrol the nest and fight others by grabbing them with their mandibles, piercing their exoskeleton and then marking them with a pheromone. The marked male is interpreted as an invader by worker ants and is killed. 76. Most ants are univoltine, producing a new generation each year. 77. During the species-specific breeding period, winged females and winged males, known to entomologists as elates, leave the colony in what is called a nuptial flight. The nuptial flight usually takes place in the late spring or early summer when the weather is hot and humid. Heat makes flying easier, and freshly fallen rain makes the ground softer for mated queens to dig nests. 78. Males typically take flight before the females. Males then use visual cues to find a common mating ground, for example, a landmark such as a pine tree to which other males in the area converge. Males secrete a mating pheromone that females follow. Males will mount females in the air, but the actual mating process usually takes place on the ground. Females of some species mate with just one male, but in others they may mate with as many as 10 or more different males, storing the sperm in their spermathecae. 79. The genus Cardiocondyla have species with both winged and wingless males, where the latter will only mate with females living in the same nest. Some species in the genus have lost winged males completely, and only produce wingless males. 80. In C. elegans, workers may transport newly emerged queens to other conspecific nests where the wingless males from unrelated colonies can mate with them, a behavioral adaptation that may reduce the chances of inbreeding. 81. Fertilized meat-eater ant queen beginning to dig a new colony. Mated females then seek a suitable place to begin a colony. There, they break off their wings using their tibial spurs and begin to lay and care for eggs. The females can selectively fertilize future eggs with the sperm stored to produce diploid workers, or lay unfertilized haploid eggs to produce drones. The first workers to hatch, known as nanitics, 82, are weaker and smaller than later workers, but they begin to serve the colony immediately. They enlarge the nest, forage for food, and care for the other eggs. Species that have multiple queens may have a queen leaving the nest along with some workers to found a colony at a new site. 79. A process akin to swarming in honeybees. Nests, colonies, and supercolonies. The typical ant species has a colony occupying a single nest, housing one or more queens, where the brood is raised. There are, however, more than 150 species of ants in 49 genera that are known to have colonies consisting of multiple spatially separated nests. These polygamous, as opposed to monogamous colonies, have food and workers moving between the nests. 83. Membership to a colony is identified by the response of worker ants, which identify whether another individual belongs to their own colony or not. A signature cocktail of body surface chemicals, also known as cuticular hydrocarbons or CHCs, forms the so-called colony odor, which other members can recognize. 84. Some ant species appear to be less discriminating, and in the Argentine ant Lyncathema humile, workers carried from a colony anywhere in the southern U.S. and Mexico are acceptable within other colonies in the same region. Similarly, workers from colonies that have established in Europe are accepted by any other colonies within Europe but not by the colonies in the Americas. The interpretation of these observations has been debated, and some have been termed these large populations as supercolonies, 85, 86, 87, while others have termed the populations as unicolonial. 88. Behavior and ecology. Communication. 2. Camponotus cereceus workers communicating through touch and pheromones. Ants find a dying white cabbage larva that parasitoid wasps larva exited 2 days earlier. Ants communicate with each other using pheromones, sounds, and touch. 89. Since most ants live on the ground, they use the soil surface to leave pheromone trails that may be followed by other ants. In species that forage in groups, a forager that finds food marks a trail on the way back to the colony. This trail is followed by other ants. These ants then reinforce the trail when they head back with food to the colony. When the food source is exhausted, no new trails are marked by returning ants and the scent slowly dissipates. This behavior helps ants deal with changes in their environment. For instance, when an established path to a food source is blocked by an obstacle, the foragers leave the path to explore new routes. If an ant is successful, it leaves a new trail marking the shortest route on its return. Successful trails are followed by more ants, reinforcing better routes and gradually identifying the best path. 89. 90. Ants use pheromones for more than just making trails. A crushed ant emits an alarm pheromone that sends nearby ants into an attack frenzy and attracts more ants from farther away. Several ant species even use propaganda pheromones to confuse enemy ants and make them fight among themselves. 91. Pheromones are produced by a wide range of structures including Dufour's glands, poison glands and glands on the hindgut, pygidium, rectum, sternum, and hind tibia. 70. Pheromones also are exchanged, mixed with food, and passed by trophallaxis, transferring information within the colony. 92. This allows other ants to detect what task group, e.g., foraging or nest maintenance, other colony members belong to. 93. In ant species with queen casts, when the dominant queen stops producing a specific pheromone, workers begin to raise new queens in the colony. 94. Some ants produce sounds by stridulation, using the gaster segments and their mandibles. Sounds may be used to communicate with colony members or with other species. 95. 96. Defense. A Plectroptina sp. attacks another of its kind to protect its territory. Ants attack and defend themselves by biting and, in many species, by stinging, often injecting or spraying chemicals. Bullet ants Paraponera, located in Central and South America, are considered to have the most painful sting of any insect, although it is usually not fatal to humans. This sting is given the highest rating on the Schmidt Sting Pain Index. 97. The sting of jackjumper ants can be lethal for humans. 98. And an antivenom has been developed for it. 99. Fire ants, Solenopsis spp, are unique in having a venom sac containing piperidine alkaloids. 100. Their stings are painful and can be dangerous to hypersensitive people. 101. Formicine ants secrete a poison from their glands, made mainly of formic acid. 102. A weaver ant in fighting position, mandibles wide open. Trapjaw ants of the genus Odontomachus are equipped with mandibles called trapjaws, which snap shut faster than any other predatory appendages within the animal kingdom. 103. One study of Odontomachus bauri recorded peak speeds of between 126 and 230 km per hour, 78 and 143 miles per hour, with the jaws closing within 130 microseconds on average. The ants were also observed to use their jaws as a catapult to eject intruders or fling themselves backward to escape a threat. 103. Before striking, the ant opens its mandibles extremely widely and locks them in this position by an internal mechanism. Energy is stored in a thick band of muscle and explosively released when triggered by the stimulation of sensory organs resembling hairs on the inside of the mandibles. The mandibles also permit slow and fine movements for other tasks. Trapjaws also are seen in other ponerines such as Anichetus, as well as some genera in the tribe Attini, such as Dayston, Oractignathus, and Strumigenes, 103, 104, which are viewed as examples of convergent evolution. A Malaysian species of ant in the Camponotus cylindricus group has enlarged mandibular glands that extend into their gaster. If combat takes a turn for the worse, a worker may perform a final act of suicidal altruism by rupturing the membrane of its gaster, causing the content of its mandibular glands to burst from the anterior region of its head, spraying a poisonous, corrosive secretion containing acetophenones and other chemicals that immobilize small insect attackers. The worker subsequently dies. 105. Ant mound holes prevent water from entering the nest during rain. In addition to defense against predators, ants need to protect their colonies from pathogens. Secretions from the metapleural gland, unique to the ants, produce a complex range of chemicals including several with antibiotic properties. 106. Some worker ants maintain the hygiene of the colony and their activities include undertaking or necrophoresis, the disposal of dead nestmates. 107. Oleic acid has been identified as the compound released from dead ants that triggers necrophoric behavior in Atta mexicana. 108. While workers of Lymphedema humile react to the absence of characteristic chemicals, dolichocodiol and iridomyrmecin, present on the cuticle of their living nestmates to trigger similar behavior. 109. In Megaponera annelise, injured ants are treated by nest masks with secretions from their metapleural glands which protect them from infection. 110. Camponotus ants do not have a metapleural gland. 106. And Camponotus maculatus as well as C. Floridanus workers have been found to amputate the affected legs of nestmates when the femur is injured. A femur injury carries a greater risk of infection unlike a tibia injury. 111. Nests may be protected from physical threats such as flooding and overheating by elaborate nest architecture. 112. 113. Workers of Catalicus muticus, an arboreal species that lives in plant hollows, respond to flooding by drinking water inside the nest and excreting it outside. 114. Camponotus andersoni, which nests in the cavities of wood and mangrove habitats, deals with submergence underwater by switching to anaerobic respiration. 115. Learning. Two weaver ants walking in tandem. Many animals can learn behaviors by imitation, but ants may be the only group apart from mammals where interactive teaching has been observed. A knowledgeable forager of Temnothorax albipennis can lead a naive nestmate to newly discovered food by the process of tandem running. The follower obtains knowledge through its leading tutor. The leader is acutely sensitive to the progress of the follower and slows down when the follower lags and speeds up when the follower gets too close. 116. Controlled experiments with colonies of Serapachis baroi suggest that an individual may choose nest roles based on her previous experience. An entire generation of identical workers was divided into two groups whose outcome in food foraging was controlled. One group was continually rewarded with prey, while it was made certain that the other failed. As a result, members of the successful group intensified their foraging attempts while the unsuccessful group ventured out fewer and fewer times. A month later, the successful foragers continued in their role while the others had moved to specialize in brood care. 117. Nest construction. Leaf nest of weaver ants, Pamelican, Philippines. Complex nests are built by many ant species, but other species are nomadic and do not build permanent structures. Ants may form subterranean nests or build them on trees. These nests may be found in the ground, under stones or logs, inside logs, hollow stems, or even acorns. The materials used for construction include soil and plant matter. 79. And ants carefully select their nest sites. Temnothorax albipennis will avoid sites with dead ants, as these may indicate the presence of pests or disease. They are quick to abandon established nests at the first sign of threats. 118. The army ants of South America, such as the Aecidum burchellii species, and the driver ants of Africa do not build permanent nests, but instead, alternate between nomadism and stages where the workers form a temporary nest bivouac from their own bodies, by holding each other together. 119. Weaver ant, Oecophila spp. Workers build nests in trees by attaching leaves together, first pulling them together with bridges of workers and then inducing their larvae to produce silk as they are moved along the leaf edges. Similar forms of nest construction are seen in some species of Polyrachis. 120. Ant bridge. Formica pelictina, among other ant species, constructs nests that maintain a relatively constant interior temperature that aids in the development of larvae. Some ant species, such as those that use natural cavities, can be opportunistic and make use of the controlled microclimate provided inside human dwellings and other artificial structures to house their colonies and nest structures. 123. 124. Cultivation of food. Myrmecocystis, honeypot ants, store food to prevent colony famine. Most ants are generalist predators, scavengers, and indirect herbivores. 19, but a few have evolved specialized ways of obtaining nutrition. It is believed that many ant species that engage in indirect herbivora rely on specialized symbiosis with their gut microbes. 125, to upgrade the nutritional value of the food they collect. 126, and allow them to survive in nitrogen-poor regions, such as rainforest canopies. 127, leafcutter ants, Atta and Acromyrmex, feed exclusively on a fungus that grows only within their colonies. They continually collect leaves which are taken to the colony, cut into tiny pieces and placed in fungal gardens. Ergates specialize in related tasks according to their sizes. The largest ants cut stalks, smaller workers chew the leaves and the smallest tend the fungus. Leafcutter ants are sensitive enough to recognize the reaction of the fungus to different plant material, apparently detecting chemical signals from the fungus. If a particular type of leaf is found to be toxic to the fungus, the colony will no longer collect it. The ants feed on structures produced by the fungi called gondolidia. Symbiotic bacteria on the exterior surface of the ants produce antibiotics that kill bacteria introduced into the nest that may harm the fungi. 128. Navigation. An ant trail. Foraging ants travel distances of up to 200 meters, 700 feet, from their nest. 129, and scent trails allow them to find their way back even in the dark. In hot and arid regions, day foraging ants face death by desiccation, so the ability to find the shortest route back to the nest reduces that risk. Diurnal desert ants of the genus Cataglyphus such as the Sahara Desert ant navigate by keeping track of direction as well as distance traveled. Distances traveled are measured using an internal pedometer that keeps count of the steps taken, 130, and also by evaluating the movement of objects in their visual field optical flow. 131, directions are measured using the position of the sun. 132, they integrate this information to find the shortest route back to their nest. 133, like all ants, they can also make use of visual landmarks when available. 134, as well as olfactory and tactile cues to navigate. 135, 136, some species of ant are able to use the Earth's magnetic field for navigation. 137, the compound eyes of ants have specialized cells that detect polarized light from the sun, which is used to determine direction. 138, 139, these polarization detectors are sensitive in the ultraviolet region of the light spectrum. 140, in some army ant species, a group of foragers who become separated from the main column may sometimes turn back on themselves and form a circular ant mill. The workers may then run around continuously until they die of exhaustion. 141. Locomotion. The female worker ants do not have wings and reproductive females lose their wings after their mating flights in order to begin their colonies. Therefore, unlike their wasp ancestors, most ants travel by walking. Some species are capable of leaping. For example, Jordan's jumping ant, Harpegnathos saltator, is able to jump by synchronizing the action of its mid and hind pairs of legs. 142. There are several species of gliding ant including Cephalocetratus. This may be a common trait among arboreal ants with small colonies. Ants with this ability are able to control their horizontal movement so as to catch tree trunks when they fall from atop the forest canopy. 143. Other species of ants can form chains to bridge gaps over water, underground, or through spaces in vegetation. Some species also form floating rafts that help them survive floods. 144. These rafts may also have a role in allowing ants to colonize islands. 145. Polyrachis sokolova, a species of ant found in Australian mangrove swamps, can swim and live in underwater nests. Since they lack gills, they go to trapped pockets of air in the submerged nests to breathe. 146. Cooperation and competition. Meat-eater ants feeding on a cicada. Social ants cooperate and collectively gather food. Not all ants have the same kind of societies. The Australian bulldog ants are among the biggest and most basal of ants. Like virtually all ants, they are eusocial, but their social behavior is poorly developed compared to other species. Each individual hunts alone, using her large eyes instead of chemical senses to find prey. 147. Some species attack and take over neighboring ant colonies. Extreme specialists among these slave-raiding ants, such as the Amazon ants, are incapable of feeding themselves and need captured workers to survive. 148. Captured workers of enslaved Temnothorax species have evolved a counter-strategy, destroying just the female pupae of the slave-making Temnothorax americanus, but sparing the males who do not take part in slave raiding as adults. 149. A worker Harpegnathos saltator, a jumping ant, engaged in battle with a rival colony's queen, on top. Ants identify kin and nestmates through their scent, which comes from hydrocarbon-laced secretions that coat their exoskeletons. If an ant is separated from its original colony, it will eventually lose the colony scent. Any ant that enters a colony without a matching scent will be attacked. 150. Parasitic ant species enter the colonies of host ants and establish themselves as social parasites. Species such as Strumigenes xenos are entirely parasitic and do not have workers, but instead, rely on the food gathered by their Strumigenes perplexa hosts. 151. 152. This form of parasitism is seen across many ant genera, but the parasitic ant is usually a species that is closely related to its host. A variety of methods are employed to enter the nest of the host ant. A parasitic queen may enter the host nest before the first brood has hatched, establishing herself prior to development of a colony scent. Other species use pheromones to confuse the host ants or to trick them into carrying the parasitic queen into the nest. Some simply fight their way into the nest. 153. A conflict between the sexes of a species is seen in some species of ants, with these reproducers apparently competing to produce offspring that are as closely related to them as possible. The most extreme form involves the production of clonal offspring. An extreme of sexual conflict is seen in Wasmannia oropunctata, where the queens produce diploid daughters by thelytokous parthenogenesis and males produce clones by a process whereby a diploid egg loses its maternal contribution to produce haploid males who are clones of the father. 154. Relationships with other organisms. The spider Myrmeron platyloids, female shown, mimics weaver ants to avoid predators. Ants form symbiotic associations with a range of species, including other ant species, other insects, plants, and fungi. They also are preyed on by many animals and even certain fungi. Some arthropod species spend part of their lives within ant nests, either preying on ants, their larvae, and eggs, consuming the food stores of the ants, or avoiding predators. These inquilines may bear a close resemblance to ants. The nature of this ant mimicry, myrmecomorphy, varies, with some cases involving Batesian mimicry, where the mimic reduces the risk of predation. Others show Wasmannian mimicry, a form of mimicry seen only in inquilines. 155. 156. An ant collects honeydew from an aphid. Ants collecting honeydew from calico scales, Euconium ceresorum, then played at 30 times speed to show the pumping action of the scale. Aphids and other hemipteran insects secrete a sweet liquid called honeydew when they feed on plant sap. The sugars in honeydew are a high-energy food source, which many ant species collect. 157. In some cases, the aphids secrete the honeydew in response to ants tapping them with their antennae. The ants in turn keep predators away from the aphids and will move them from one feeding location to another. When migrating to a new area, many colonies will take the aphids with them to ensure a continued supply of honeydew. Ants also tend mealybugs to harvest their honeydew. Mealybugs may become a serious pest of pineapples if ants are present to protect mealybugs from their natural enemies. 158. Myrmecophilous ant-loving caterpillars of the butterfly family Lycaenidae, e.g., blues, coppers, or hairstreaks, are herded by the ants, led to feeding areas in the daytime, and brought inside the ant's nest at night. The caterpillars have a gland which secretes honeydew when the ants massage them. The chemicals in the secretions of Nerithera japonica alter the behavior of attendant Pristomyrmex punctatus workers, making them less aggressive and stationary. The relationship, formerly characterized as mutualistic, is now considered as possibly a case of the ants being parasitically manipulated by the caterpillars. 159. Some caterpillars produce vibrations and sounds that are perceived by the ants. 160. A similar adaptation can be seen in grizzled skipper butterflies that emit vibrations by expanding their wings in order to communicate with ants, which are natural predators of these butterflies. 161. Other caterpillars have evolved from ant-loving to ant-eating. These Myrmecophagous caterpillars secrete a pheromone that makes the ants act as if the caterpillar is one of their own larvae. The caterpillar is then taken into the ant nest where it feeds on the ant larva. 162. A number of specialized bacteria have been found as endosymbionts in ant guts. Some of the dominant bacteria belong to the order Hyphomicrobials, whose members are known for being nitrogen-fixing symbionts in legumes, but the species found in ant lack the ability to fix nitrogen. 163. 164. Fungus-growing ants that make up the tribe Attini, including leafcutter ants, cultivate certain species of fungus in the genera Leucogaricus or Leucocoprinus of the family Agaricaceae. In this ant-fungus mutualism, both species depend on each other for survival. The ant Allomorus desmarticulatus has evolved a three-way association with the host plant, Hertella Physophora chrysobalanaceae, and a sticky fungus which is used to trap their insect prey. 165. Ants may obtain nectar from flowers such as the dandelion, but are only rarely known to pollinate flowers. Ants tending aphids and collecting honeydew secreted. A wrinkled solder beetle flies in and eats an aphid before being chased away by the ants. Lemon ants make devil's gardens by killing surrounding plants with their stings and leaving a pure patch of lemon ant trees, Doroia hirsuta. This modification of the forest provides the ants with more nesting sites inside the stems of the Doroia trees. 166. Although some ants obtain nectar from flowers, pollination by ants is somewhat rare, one example being of the pollination of the orchid Leporella fimbriata, which induces male Myrmecia wrens to pseudocopulate with the flowers, transferring pollen in the process. 167. One theory that has been proposed for the rarity of pollination is that the secretions of the metabolor gland inactivate and reduce the viability of pollen. 168. 169. Some plants, mostly angiosperms but also some ferns, 170, have special nectar-exuding structures, extrafloral nectaries, that provide food for ants, which in turn protect the plant from more damaging herbivorous insects. 171. Species such as the bullhorn acacia, Acacia cornigera, in Central America have hollow thorns that house colonies of stinging ants, Pseudomyrmex ferruginea, who defend the tree against insects, browsing mammals, and epiphytic vines. Isotopic labeling studies suggest that plants also obtain nitrogen from the ants. 172. In return, the ants obtain food from protein and lipid-rich Beltian bodies. In Fiji, Philodrus nagasau, Dolichodorinae, are known to selectively grow species of epiphytic Squamallaria, Rubiaceae, which produce large domatia inside which the ant colonies nest. The ants plant the seeds in the domatia of young seedling or immediately occupied, and the ant feces in them contribute to rapid growth. 173. Similar dispersal associations are found with other Dolichodorines in the region as well. 174. Another example of this type of ectosymbiosis comes from the Macaranga tree, which has stems adapted to house colonies of Crematogaster ants. 175. Many plant species have seeds that are adapted for dispersal by ants. 176. Seed dispersal by ants or Myrmecophori is widespread, and new estimates suggest that nearly 9% of all plant species may have such ant associations. 177. 176. Often, seed dispersing ants perform directed dispersal, depositing the seeds in locations that increase the likelihood of seed survival to reproduction. 178. Some plants in arid, fire-prone systems are particularly dependent on ants for their survival and dispersal as the seeds are transported to safety below the ground. 179. Many ant-dispersed seeds have special external structures, eliosomes, that are sought after by ants as food. 180. Ants can substantially alter rate of decomposition and nutrient cycling in their nest. 181. 182. By Myrmecophori and modification of soil conditions they substantially alter vegetation and nutrient cycling in surrounding ecosystem. 183. A convergence, possibly a form of mimicry, is seen in the eggs of stick insects. They have an edible eliosome-like structure and are taken into the ant nest where the young hatch. 184. A meat ant tending a common leafhopper nymph. Bulb-jumping spider Pidipus odyx with a cutworm tried noctuini and then lost to ants family Formicidae. Ants from different colonies steal the cranifly that a pair of long-jawed orb weaver spiders were consuming. Most ants are predatory and some prey on and obtain food from other social insects including other ants. Some species specialize in preying on termites, Megaponera and Termitopone, while a few Ceropocinae prey on other ants. 129. Some termites, including Nasutiderms corniger, form associations with certain ant species to keep away predatory ant species. 185. The tropical wasp Miscasiderus drusini coats the pedicel of its nest with an ant-repellent chemical. 186. It is suggested that many tropical wasps may build their nests in trees and cover them to protect themselves from ants. Other wasps, such as a multipicta, defend against ants by blasting them off the nest with bursts of wing buzzing. 187. Stingless bees, Trigona and Melipona, use chemical defenses against ants. 129. Flies in the Old World genus Bengalia califoridae prey on ants and are kleptoparasites, snatching prey or brood from the mandibles of adult ants. 188. Wingless and legless females of the Malaysian phorid fly, Vestigipoda myrmelarvoidea, live in the nests of ants of the genus Anictus and are cared for by the ants. 188. Oecophilus smaragdina killed by a fungus. Fungi in the genera Cordyceps and Ophiocordyceps infect ants. Ants react to their infection by climbing up plants and sinking their mandibles into plant tissue. The fungus kills the ants, grows on their remains, and produces a fruiting body. It appears that the fungus alters the behavior of the ant to help disperse its spores. 189. In a microhabitat that best suits the fungus. 190. Strepsipteran parasites also manipulate their ant host to climb grass stems, to help the parasite find mates. 191. A nematode Myrmecoma neotropicum that infects canopy ants, cephalocetratus, causes the black-colored gasters of workers to turn red. The parasite also alters the behavior of the ant, causing them to carry their gasters high. The conspicuous red gasters are mistaken by birds for ripe fruits, such as Hieronima alcorneoides and Eden. The droppings of the bird are collected by other ants and fed to their young, leading to further spread of the nematode. 192. Spiders, like this Menemeris jumping spider, sometimes feed on ants. A study of Temnothorax nylanderi colonies in Germany found that workers parasitized by the tapeworm Anemotania brevis, ants are intermediate hosts. The definitive hosts are woodpeckers, live much longer than unparasitized workers and had a reduced mortality rate, comparable to that of the queens of the same species, which live for as long as 2 decades. 193. South American poison dart frogs in the genus Dendrobates feed mainly on ants, and the toxins in their skin may come from the ants. 194. Army ants forage in a wide roving column, attacking any animals in that path that are unable to escape. In Central and South America, Aecidum burchellii is the swarming ant most commonly attended by ant following birds such as antbirds and woodcreepers. 195. 196. This behavior was once considered mutualistic, but later studies found the birds to be parasitic. Direct kleptoparasitism, birds stealing food from the ant's grasp, is rare and has been noted in Inca doves which pick seeds at nest entrances as they are being transported by species of Paganomermex. 197. Birds that follow ants eat many prey insects and thus decrease the foraging success of ants. 198. Birds indulge in a peculiar behavior called anting that, as yet, is not fully understood. Here birds rest on ant nests, or pick and drop ants onto their wings and feathers. This may be a means to remove ectoparasites from the birds. Anteaters, aardvarks, pangolins, echidnas and numbots have special adaptations for living on a diet of ants. These adaptations include long, sticky tongues to capture ants and strong claws to break into ant nests. Brown bears, Ursus arctos, have been found to feed on ants. About 12%, 16%, and 4% of their fecal volume in spring, summer and autumn, respectively, is composed of ants. 199. Relationship with humans. Weaver ants are used as a biological control for citrus cultivation in southern China. Ants perform many ecological roles that are beneficial to humans, including the suppression of pest populations and aeration of the soil. The use of weaver ants in citrus cultivation in southern China is considered one of the oldest known applications of biological control. 200. On the other hand, ants may become nuisances when they invade buildings or cause economic losses. In some parts of the world, mainly Africa and South America, large ants, especially army ants, are used as surgical sutures. The wound is pressed together and ants are applied along it. The ant seizes the edges of the wound in its mandibles and locks in place. The body is then cut off and the head and mandibles remain in place to close the wound. 201, 202, 203. The large heads of the Dinergates, soldiers, of the leaf-cutting ant Atacephalotes are also used by native surgeons in closing wounds. 204. Some ants have toxic venom and are of medical importance. The species include Paraponera clavata, Tocandira, and Dinoponera spp. False Tocandiras of South America, 205, and the Myrmecia ants of Australia. 206. In South Africa, ants are used to help harvest the seeds of rooibos, Aspalathus linearis, a plant used to make herbal tea. The plant disperses its seeds widely, making manual collection difficult. Black ants collect and store these and other seeds in their nest, where humans can gather them en masse. Up to half a pound, 200 grams, of seeds may be collected from one ant heap. 207, 208. Although most ants survive attempts by humans to eradicate them, a few are highly endangered. These tend to be island species that have evolved specialized traits and risk being displaced by introduced ant species. Examples include the critically endangered Sri Lankan relict ant, Aenartis simoni, and Adenomyrma venatrix of Madagascar. 209. As food. Roasted ants in Colombia. Ant larvae for sale in Isan, Thailand. Ants and their larvae are eaten in different parts of the world. The eggs of 2 species of ants are used in Mexican Eskimos. They are considered a form of insect caviar and can sell for as much as 50 United States dollars per kilogram going up to 200 United States dollars per kilogram as of 2006 because they are seasonal and hard to find. 210. In the Colombian department of Santander, Hormigas culonas, roughly interpreted as large-bottomed ants, Atalabagada, are toasted alive and eaten. 211. In areas of India, and throughout Burma and Thailand, a paste of the green weaver ant Oecophilus smaragdina is served as a condiment with curry. 212. Weaver ant eggs and larvae, as well as the ants, may be used in a Thai salad, yam Thai, ya in a dish called yam kai mo dang Thai, ya kim dang or red ant egg salad, a dish that comes from the Isan or northeastern region of Thailand. Sybil Kent, in The Naturalist in Australia wrote, beauty, in the case of the green ant, is more than skin deep. Their attractive, almost sweet meat-like translucency possibly invited the first essays of their consumption by the human species. Mashed up in water, after the manner of lemon squash, these ants form a pleasant acid drink which is held in high favor by the natives of North Queensland, and is even appreciated by many European palates. 213. Ants or their pupae are used as starters for yogurt making in parts of Bulgaria and Turkey. 214. In his first summer in the Sierra, John Muir notes that the Digger Indians of California eat the tickling, acid gasters of the large jet black carpenter ants. The Mexican Indians eat the repletes, or living honey pots, of the honey ant Myrmecocystis. 213. As pests. The tiny pharaoh ant is a major pest in hospitals and office blocks. It can make nests between sheets of paper. Some ant species are considered as pests, primarily those that occur in human habitations, where their presence is often problematic. For example, the presence of ants would be undesirable in sterile places such as hospitals or kitchens. Some species or genera commonly categorized as pests include the Argentine ant, immigrant pavement ant, yellow crazy ant, banded sugar ant, pharaoh ant, redwood ant, black carpenter ant, odorous house ant, red imported fire ant, and European fire ant. Some ants will raid stored food, some will seek water sources, others may damage indoor structures, some may damage agricultural crops directly or by eating sucking pests. Some will sting or bite. 215. The adaptive nature of ant colonies make it nearly impossible to eliminate entire colonies, and most pest management practices aim to control local populations and tend to be temporary solutions. Ant populations are managed by a combination of approaches that make use of chemical, biological, and physical methods. Chemical methods include the use of insecticidal bait which is gathered by ants as food and brought back to the nest where the poison is inadvertently spread to other colony members through trophallaxis. Management is based on the species and techniques may vary according to the location and circumstance. 215. In science and technology. Camponotus nearcticus workers traveling between two formicaria through connector tubing. Observed by humans since the dawn of history, the behavior of ants has been documented and the subject of early writings and fables passed from one century to another. Those using scientific methods, myrmecologists, study ants in the laboratory and in their natural conditions. Their complex and variable social structures have made ants ideal model organisms. Ultraviolet vision was first discovered in ants by Sir John Lubbock in 1881. 216 Studies on ants have tested hypotheses in ecology and sociobiology, and have been particularly important in examining the predictions of theories of kin selection and evolutionarily stable strategies. 217 Ant colonies may be studied by rearing or temporarily maintaining them in formicaria, specially constructed glass-framed enclosures. 218 Individuals may be tracked for study by marking them with dots of colors. 219